Welcome back to the Green Yard and to the second part of our video series featuring Steven's amazing 8-year-old food forest. If you didn't get to check out the first part, definitely do so. I'll include the link here. In the first part, we viewed his abundant and beautiful front yard, all of the amazing fruiting and flowering trees and plants that he is growing in that abundant green yard in the front yard. In this video, we're going to continue the tour with Steven and we're going to start venturing into the backyard, and he's going to show us his backyard in this video. I wanted to kind of go through and reiterate what I talked about and ended the video with last series. One of my goals from the start of this channel was, of course, to showcase the beauty and my journey to create this beauty here in the green yard itself. But I also wanted to showcase the amazing, abundance, beauty, and passion that other people have and have put into their green yards. I've been fortunate enough to travel around not only the US but also the world, and there are so many amazing people that have green yards and are growing their own food, trying to add some beauty to their space. And I would love to bring that inspiration, that talent, that beauty to this channel, that inspiration to this channel to showcase for you guys. So one of my goals is to, in 2024, start showcasing more tours of other people's amazing food forests and green yards, not only here in Phoenix, but hopefully around the country and around the world as well as the channel continues to grow. So if you have a green yard that you would like to have featured here on the channel, please feel free to comment below in this video, or feel free to reach out to us through one of our social media pages. Now, let's go check in with Steven as we continue the tour of that 8-year-old food forest here in his backyard. Here we go.
Okay, let's move in the backyard. Where to begin? How about right here? So Barbados cherry. This guy has been in the ground for at least 5 years. Flat fruits a couple times a year. I find the summer crop to be a little bit, sweeter or better than this winter crop. They're still pretty tasty, and it puts on a decent crop, but for some reason, maybe not quite as sweet. A little more on the sour side than sweet in the fall crop, but still really good cherries. This is a Valentine pomelo. So it's actually a pomelo and a blood orange hybrid. And this is the first year it's really put on like a good amount of fruit for the size of the tree. I'm not sure you can see, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's like 5 or 6 fruits. When they're younger, they can obviously only hold so much. The fruits are pretty big. So I'm looking forward to trying this for the first time. We do have one more pomelo in the backyard, but yeah, if you can see here, this star cherry or star fruit, excuse me, really went crazy in the last 2 years, and it fruits quite a bit. I cut it. It took over the roof in the house, all over this window. This whole area was just all tree. So I cut it way back. It didn't really like that, as you can see. We'll see what happens. It might just need a year to recover. and then maybe hopefully come back and fruit again next year. But my guess is it's probably not going to do a whole lot in the next 6 months, especially now we're going to winter. But yeah, it definitely got a hard pruning and maybe a little bit too much. But we'll see. I've got others, so I'm not too worried about it. Moving on. So this is kind of unofficially, not sure why, but it's turned into Mango Alley. And actually, if you can tell, but there's a shade structure here that I had built, actually a couple. This used to go all the way back that went across to the roof, and I would cover this every summer. So a lot of the stuff that's made a little bit more sun sensitive, I put in this particular alley, as I call it specifically. So a few mangoes. So this is a Karen Michelle ice cream, another achacha that's grown actually quite a bit more than the two in the front, even though it's about a year younger, not sure why. This one may flower or fruit before those two, if any of them do. Lemon zest, cogshell. This is a cat Saigon. And all of these have fruited, although they're probably too young. I probably shouldn't have let them fruit. They're all in the ground between 2 and 4 years, 5 years maybe. The lemon zest is a little bit bigger and older, as you can see. The cogshell has not fruited. This one kind of took a hit this last summer and then kind of flushed out a little bit, and it's struggling a little bit. We'll see what happens with this. It's trying, but again, we're going into winter, so we'll see what happens. Another sapodillas. This is the butterscotch. This is supposed to be the best one, or one of the best ones, flavor-wise. It's flowered, but no fruit yet, so we'll see. And I've got my little helper here, right? Oops, sorry. Anyway, moving on. This is a Wampy. So this is in, I believe, the citrus family. And they're small little fruits, about the size of like a longan. And it's hard to explain. I know there's the different varieties have different flavors. Some are more sweet, some are more sour. This one, to me, this year it fruited for the first time about a dozen fruits. They're smaller. It has a very interesting flavor. A little bit sour, a little bit sweet. Yeah, I can't really explain it really well. And so it kind of has some citrus kind of notes to it a little bit, but definitely unique. Another star fruit. This one is Carrie. Fruits pretty prolifically. This one, and then the one I cut way back the last 4 or 5 years. They've been in the ground now for nearly as long as we've been here, and they fruit too much fruit. We have to share a lot of it. Okay, peanut butter tree, that one's been in the ground. So this was a plury that I put in the ground maybe a year into when we moved in. So it had been there for 6+ years. It fruited thousands of fruit. It took up this whole area this last summer. And then right after the fruits got picked, it died. I don't know why. Experts might have a better idea about why, but it happened to a couple of trees, and that was one of them. So this is what got put in its place. Lychee has been in the ground now for about 3 years. Doesn't look great. I could probably do some more maintenance, more copper spray, giving it a little bit more love as far as the soil amending, but it does okay. It's flowered now for the last 3 years, but hasn't set fruit yet. So it might just need some more age. I could probably maybe help it with some soil amendments or some better food. I do feed pretty much everything, not always the same, but at least 3 times a year. I try to do a little bit more, just with the mangoes and some of the other tropical stuff. But everything gets at least 3 times a year, and I do some fish emulsion a couple times a year. I would like to do it more, but it's so expensive, and because we have so many trees, it's hard. You buy a couple of 5-gallon buckets, and that's $300 or $400, so it gets expensive. But anyway, what else? So this is a variegated kumquat. It's called a Centennial. It died back a little bit this summer, so I had to cut back about half the canopy you can see here. But last year it did fruit, and This is supposed to be a really, really sweet variety, although I found the fruit to be very sour. Not sure if it's just because it was a fairly young tree and it was the first time it had flowered for me or fruited for me. Not sure, but yeah, it was on the sour side. We'll see. It died back, so it's probably not going to need another year to recuperate, but we'll see what happens with that guy. But a cool plant. This is a Phoenix mango. Fruited. I left a couple fruits on the tree this year for the first time. It's fairly mature. I probably could have given it 1 year without fruiting, but I think like most of us, I get impatient. I'll usually cut off, or I mean, it self-thins itself, obviously, like most of the mangoes do here in Phoenix. But I let it hold a couple of fruit, like I do for most of them, 2 or 3, and for the first three years or so. I know they say at least a couple years don't let it fruit at all, and I'll usually give it at least a summer where it doesn't fruit, and then by the next summer, like I said, I get antsy and I want to at least have a couple fruits. So, what else? So this is a chi or a melon berry. Not a real popular tree here. Not a lot of people have heard of this, and I don't know why. It's in the same family as the mulberry. This one doesn't get enough sun. Quite honestly, I have 2. I'll show you the other one when we get closer to the part of the backyard. And they grow like mulberries. They grow crazy. This one I have cut back, but this area, as you can see, the structure gets covered because, again, some more sensitive things in this section. This one probably didn't belong here. I probably put it in the wrong spot to begin with, but it is where it is. So it might get replaced. We'll see what happens. I'd like to get to a point where this doesn't have to get shaded at all. It might get shaded one more summer. It might not. We'll see what next year holds. But this year obviously was a tough summer. So longan here. This is a really good fruit. I've got, I think, 3 or 4 on the property. It's one of my favorite fruits as well. A bunch of Monstera deliciosa. I have not gotten any of mine to fruit yet, but I've had the fruit. Very interesting, and I hope that it does fruit eventually. Sweet tart mango. That's an Ugly Betty. It's hard to see, but that, if I can get to it. So this is another sapote. Jaboticaba is over here. Yeah, this whole area's gotten a little bit overgrown. This is a cherry of the Rio Grande. Yeah, sorry, this is a Mame sapote, if I didn't mention that. Which again, you don't see a lot of in Phoenix. It's hard because this longan is kind of overtaken. I need to prune this back. I just need to get a chance to. But if you can see, it's actually, I mean, it puts on a good amount of growth. It hasn't flowered yet, but we'll see. They don't seem, not supposed to do real well here, but this was done okay. We'll see what happens. Maybe move this way. Sorry, I'm all over the place. Patomba right here. This fruited for the first time this year. Again, the flavor. Some people say apricot-ish, but interesting. Kind of a sourish, strange apricot flavor. It was good, just hard to explain. This is the other pomelo. This is a Tahitian pomelo. What else? So back here, this is another one of my experiments. This is a lemon drop mangosteen. So I put this one and the other one that I have, I'll show you in a minute, in the ground last year. Like the achacha, very slow growing. I don't know that anyone's fruited this in Phoenix or the achacha. So I had another one in between these plumerias, right where this little plumeria was. And I had it in the ground for about 3 years. And last summer, maybe 4 years, it grew quite a bit actually for lemon drop mangosteen, I think, for Phoenix. It fruited. It set a fruit. I was so excited. It got about the size of like a large marble. The fruit fell and the plant died. I don't know what happened, honestly. I didn't do anything differently. I didn't feed it, overly feed it, or do anything like weird that it hadn't gotten before. It just set the fruit The fruit grew about half the size of what they're supposed to, or I think they are, and it died. I was so disappointed. So I replaced it with that one and this little guy over here last year. But you can see it's put on some flushes. It looks happy. They're small, obviously, but that was about the size, a little bit smaller of that one that I had. And over those 3 years, it probably doubled or tripled in size. But again, fairly slow growing. More plumeria, more bananas. June plum, not my favorite fruit. Interesting, a little on the sour side. A lot of folks will eat them green. I prefer them to get a little more ripe, but even then, not my favorite fruit, but interesting. Another longan. This is a really good tasting fruit. And this dragon fruit mess, I think just the water irrigation and the heat in the sun this year kind of did this. But in years past, it looks beautiful. It just took over this pecan, and I think it'll be fine. It'll come back, but it definitely does not look its best right now. We can kind of sneak in here. Kathy mango, another really great tasting mango. Back here is the other side of this cherry of the Rio Grande. You don't see a whole lot of these around. They're a little bit tricky. This one has done great, but not fruited yet. It flowered last year for the first time, but didn't set any fruit. So probably of all like the Barbados, Suriname, like those like tropical cherries, this one is, in my opinion, by far the best. But again, you don't see them a lot and they're a little bit trickier, but the couple people in town that have grown them and they're mature and I've had the fruit, they're really, really tasty. This BQ longan obviously is very happy. I need to do some pruning with the pecan here and maybe even the canopy because it's kind of taken over this whole area, but this is a very tasty fruit. Sugar apple, not fruited yet, flowered last year, but no fruit. It's still fairly small, as you can see, so I'll just be patient. Rose here. That's kind of it for back here. We'll kind of come around this side. Blood orange. Rocco, I think is the variety. Good fruit. It's fruited out for a couple years. Doesn't put on a heavy crop, but it's only been in the ground for maybe 4 years now. So a couple years to grow, and that's, like I said, it's got a couple of years of crops in it. Some figs. I can never remember the varieties of these two. One's a green Ischia. The other is Cadota, I believe. Both good, not great. I've done a couple of grafts. We'll see. Yeah, I do love figs. Some I like better than others. I find that in Phoenix, and a lot of people are looking for the closed eye because there's ant issue. I didn't mention in the front between the ash trees, there's also a Violette de Bordeaux next to one of the bananas. And that one is a great fruit, but it's an open eye and it just gets ants. And so unless you get it right at the right time, you don't get a whole lot of fruit to eat unless you don't mind eating ants. Anyway, small plumeria I just put there just because I had it in a pot and that's where it went. This big one behind it is ice cream bean. So this I need to cut back. Obviously, it's gotten, the canopy has gotten huge and taken over this whole area. This is flowered now a couple of years, but hasn't set any fruit. I'm hopeful that this next summer will get some fruit. I've never tasted the fruit, but we'll see. Not sure if we can really get back in here, but Peruvian apple cactus. There's an olive back here. There's the Thai green jujube is back there. This thing is also, once it sets fruit in February, gets a huge, huge prune because these things grow like crazy. This is, I forgot, ornamental, not fruiting. Another jujube, the Chinese. It's a Li or a Lang, I can't remember which. Another Jaboticaba here, and this Araza I planted. This was a raspberry bush that's put on some fruit in the summer And then just, I think over the course of the summer, just the heat and everything kind of killed it back. So I put this Araza in its place. I have not had the Raza fruit either. In fact, I don't know that anyone in town has or has fruited it. Again, fairly slow growing. We'll see what happens. So per one of the mango growers, Naveed in town, I tried this box method, and you probably saw it on some of the other mangoes. I lost a few mangoes in the early stages. I just didn't have the time or the energy to work on the soil, keep the pH low, do all these things. So what he started doing was basically putting together these boxes and digging really deep and putting in peat moss, sand, perlite, a little bit of organic stuff, and basically treating it like a big pot. So that's kind of what I've done here with some of the mangoes and avocados. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of years with these. They've all been in the ground now for anywhere between a year and 3 or 4 years, depending. But I tried these a couple of years ago. I built these 3 years ago, and we'll see how they do. So back here's another star fruit. I don't know the variety. This is the first year that it fruited. All the star fruits that I've had are good ones, so I've never had a bad one. But that's as much as I can tell you. What else? So when we bought the property, there was grapefruit, orange, lemon, and lime. This last summer, this was the spot of the grapefruit. We lost it. Huge, set hundreds of fruit every year since we bought the place, and this year it died. And the same thing happened to the lemon last year, and the year before the orange. I'm not sure if it was just the heat of the summer, these bad summers, the age. They were here when the previous owners bought the property, so they've been in here since at least the 80s. So they're at least 35 to 40 years old, or were. So it might be age, it might be just the accumulation of some really hot summers, I'm not sure, but we lost this. This does not look great, as you can see. This is a mandarin. We'll see, and I could probably take the fruit off. It probably doesn't want to have any fruit on it. Some of it will probably fall off anyway, if not all of it. But I just planted this yesterday, so we'll see. And I kind of had it neglected in a pot for a few months, so we'll see if it bounces back. This is a Flavorella plum cot. This fruited for the first time this year, and they're dynamite. Really, really good. This is a Java plum. Yes. This was one of the seedlings that came from the tree at the zoo. So the zoo planted a bunch of seeds and propagated, and the Arizona Rare Fruit Growers Group got a bunch of the seedlings and sold them at the sale. I picked up all the plants from the zoo when we did that sale, so I kept one, and this was one of them. So it's a seedling. It's obviously grown quite a bit. I've cut it back some, but it hasn't flowered yet. These were what was here? Something else was here that wasn't happy. I took it out. So I put these in this last fall. This is, I forgot already. One is the sweet tart. So this is the plury that replaces the one that died over by the shed that I showed you earlier. And this is a pluot, I believe. Yep, Flavor King pluot. So, and then the pollinator is the Santa Rosa plum here, which is technically a weeping Santa Rosa. But I put a bunch of pluots and other grafts on this as well. So it's kind of a, I don't know if I said Frankenstein, but it's got a bunch of grafts on it. Okay, so we got a dwarf banana here, and what else? Pineapple guava here. Lots of flowers, which are tasty, but hasn't fruited. What else? Santal is here. Another experiment, tropical fruit. It's supposed to be really good. I have not had the fruit, but it sounds good. It's a cool looking little plant. It's actually, it looks pretty happy. Obviously very young, but we'll see what happens. Another avocado. Another guava. I've got a grape that's planted way too close. to the wall and the guava, but I kind of trained it now to go up over the RV gate, and I cut it back quite a bit, but it took over that whole RV gate here this summer with the branches and the fruit. So it was just hanging with fruit. So I don't know if that's a good spot for it or a bad spot, but that's kind of just what happened. If we can get through here, it's a bit of a mess. This was an apiarium, same thing as the pleury. Ton of fruit this summer. Right after it fruited, died. So I put a cherry here. Probably won't make it, but we'll try it. I think it's a Lapins, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we'll see. I'll probably have to shade this area again next summer, which I did this summer. Super Alfonso mango, or at least one wall to kind of block the west sun. I don't mind a little bit of earlier sun, but I think west sun probably, I mean, it gets some shade from this. So this is a Halawi date palm. This is the biggest of the pups that we got when we went to the China Date Ranch. So this is the one that I know for sure is a Halawi. This is fruited now the last 3 years, I think. Good sized crop. I've cut off so many pups off of this thing and shared a few. Some of them grow a bit higher, so I haven't been able to root them out. But I've given some away, and a few people in town now are growing their own Halawis. So cool tree, needs a lot of pruning. This is my other Patanga tuber or star cherry, small as you can see, but it has fruited, just not a lot. But the big one in front obviously hasn't fruited a lot either, so who knows. So this is the only citrus that's left from what was here a long time ago. So Mexican lime, great limes, but I mean, how much can you use limes? What else? This is the strawberry guava, and this is fruited now a couple years. Even though it's still small, interesting fruit, nothing special. They're small, but kind of cool. I don't know if you can make it through here. Another guava, obviously, really good fruit. That was another air layer that came from Doug's property. This is the other date palm. So this is either the China Gold or the China Black, I think, or I'm just going to call this one the China Gold, and the China Black is the one that was in the front yard by the driveway. This is fruit now a couple years. The fruit aren't quite as good as the Halawi or the China Black, in my opinion, but they're dates. I mean, to me, there's no bad dates. Just they're a little bit on the smaller side, not quite as tasty. But anyway. So funny story about this Asian pear. So I planted this about 6 years ago, and it set fruit for a couple years. And now the last 3 years, so 2 or 3 years ago, I did some grafting. As an experiment, I grafted some European or American pears onto it, just to see if a different type of pear, not an Asian pear, would work. So the last 2 years, no Asian pears, and the grafts from the European or the Americans, I think it's a Hood and a Florida Home are the two that are pollinators for each other. Those two have fruited. So it's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, Asian pears and the American or European pears are both good. So I'm happy to get some fruit. It's just interesting that the mother tree, the Asian pear now hasn't fruited, but the grafts have. Not sure. So this was the spot of the lemon tree that I lost 2 years ago. So we planted another one here, but still obviously pretty young and small. This is a Mombin or a hog plum, and these things are really, really cold sensitive. I've lost 2 now. This one fruited last year, and then I thought it was dead over the winter, and it like leafed out like this, but it never like flushed out. I don't know if that's because of just our climate. They get big and beautiful in Florida, but this is all it did. It's not dead, as you can see. I thought it was dead, but I just left it just in case. And this is what happened. It even set a few fruits this spring. Like there was no green originally. They typically tend to set the fruits and then flush out. So it set a few fruits, then it falling, and then these little shoots came out, and that's all it's done. So I don't know if it's gonna like flush out again next year, if it's gonna die this winter. I have no idea. We'll see. But it's just a bit strange. So I built a few gardens here, as you can kind of see too. These are obviously unruly. We did a bunch of summer planting or spring planting, harvested everything by August into September, and now it's just a weed slash grass mess that I need to clean up and replant. We try to do 2 gardens a year, and just it's been so busy I haven't had time to do anything with these 3 beds, but I will. So this is the other chi, or the melonberry. This one I've done some grafting onto, as you can see, and the grafts have fruited, but the mother tree has not. So I know they need a male pollinator, and I have the male in a pot. I didn't mention it on the other side of the property in the backyard here, that I don't know if that is flowering the grafts. So that's why these grafts have fruited, or if they're self-pollinating grafts. But the mother tree has not fruited. Interesting fruit. It kind of tastes like a mild cross between like a raspberry, a cantaloupe melon, and a mulberry, but less sweet, if that makes any sense. But unique. I tried it for the first time in LA about 6 or 7 years ago at one of the farmers markets in Santa Monica, and loved it. They're really, at least the variety that I had, very, very sweet, strong raspberry flavor, strong cantaloupe flavor. The ones that have fruited on this tree, at least those grafts, have those flavor profiles, but just much more mild and less sweet. So I don't know if it just needs time, or if the mother, if that ever fruits, if those fruits will be better or different, but we'll see. But this thing, again, got a huge prune by over half. I mean, it took up this whole area, and I cut it way back. Kumquat, another plumeria. This is a black mission fig, kind of back here. I feel like black mission kind of gets a bad rap, like that's like the one that they have in stores. This thing is prolific, no bugs. The taste is phenomenal. We have I think, I don't know, 7 or 8 figs around the property. It's probably my favorite out of all of them. It's reliable. The fruit's great. It fruits a ton. It's a good fig. This is a ghost apple. It's kind of like one of those novelty things. The apples, at least in Phoenix, so the ones on my tree, they don't stay white. They get a little bit of a yellowish, creamy color to them. Still kind of cool. The flavor isn't like anything super special. It's a good apple. I'll put it that way. I've cut this one back quite a bit too, just because of the pool. This Jabota Caba, and all the Jabota Cabas that I've mentioned are all Sabras. This is the only one that's fruited. It's obviously the biggest. This year, it hadn't flowered or fruited before. This year, it probably set 200 fruit, like a ton of fruit. And I love this fruit. I couldn't eat them all, and I tried. I mean, there's obviously not a lot of flesh. They're small, but man, these were good. Really, really good. If you haven't had them, if they set like they did last year, you're welcome to come over and try some fruit. Okay, just a few more. Buddha's hand, citron, right here, citrus. Usually puts on a dozen or 15 fruits. Sometimes I use them, to be honest. I flavor drinks or vodka. Sometimes they just kind of hang out as a centerpiece, and I throw them away. But they are cool. The microphone, sorry. Nectarine, really good fruit. This is an Arctic Star. The backside of the dragon fruit, another longan here. This is that Redland sapote. Probably gets too much shade compared to that Subel in front, which gets basically full sun. They want sun. So this is why this one's, and I've cut it back some too, but this is a fraction of the size and the same age as the Subel, and I don't think it gets enough sun. It gets a lot of shade, as you can see from the pecan. And I transplanted this passion fruit. I've lost a couple over the last couple years. This thing took over this whole area. Completely covered the window in the house. I had this whole thing. I had like a big trellis up here. You can see from the brackets. It was grown completely over here, and I cut it way back, and they did not. I've cut the same thing twice down on this one and another one on the other side of the property, and they did not like it. Basically killed them. If you prune them back, I think at the wrong time of year, they don't like that. So I replanted this one, which also does not look great. We'll see if it just kind of hangs out over the winter and then flushes out in the spring. I'm not sure what's gonna happen. That's about it. Hope you enjoyed the tour, and this has been my green yard.
Wow, that was so amazing. I cannot believe how many fruiting and flowering trees and plants he has fit into this property. It really is amazing to be here. He also has been kind enough to share some of his sapodillas, his Chico Sapote, with us. So I'm actually going to try my first sapodilla on camera here. Look, it looks like brown sugar on the inside, right? And let's give it a shot. Let's see. Wow, that is so good. I cannot wait for our Chico Sapote, our sapodilla, to fruit as well. It literally tastes like a pear dipped in brown sugar. That was like the most amazing thing. As always, live green, plant lots, and of course have fun. We'll see you next time.